Welcome to Wealthing Talks. I am your host, Alicia Castillo Holley, bringing you real life conversations from Silicon Valley or somewhere around the world. We will talk about disruptors, angel investments, venture capital, and of course, family offices. Join me along with my children, their families, friends, disruptors, and investors as we explore the fascinating world of creating wealth in a completely different and authentic way. Well, hello, hola. Thank you so much for being here. It is absolute pleasure to introduce Martha Montoya, the CEO and founder of Actools. Marta, bienvenida, welcome here, my neighbor in California and my neighbor in country of origin from Colombia, and I'm from Venezuela. So it's such a pleasure to see you. Welcome, Marta. How did you get to be here doing what you do?
Well, it's called an unstable country with a lot of unstable situations that pushed me to leave Colombia to be in the United States. And I used to play tennis for Colombia, so met couple families that lived in the United States, in particular Newport Beach, California, which I thought that was USA. And that's how I landed in the United States through that whole having played tennis for so long and landing there.
And what are you doing with Actools? Because that's the
So
other thing that keeps us connected. I'm an agronomist, like agriculture.
right. So grew up. There's several things that happen in order to be here with Actools. Number one, I come from a coffee farm family. Who grew up in within the farming industry with my grandfather, with my uncles. My father not as much. I would say not even involved, but definitely myself spent 4 or 5 months of the year in the farms for many reasons. Second, my father migrated from Medellin to Bogota and founded schools for working classes, and so I grew up in the world of entrepreneurship and education. And then the last but not least, I wanted to come to the United States to be a cartoonist. And you will see that throughout the data, the creativity that has helped me blend this whole programming, data, thinking into what we have today with Actools. And so for a small chapter in my life, I did become a cartoonist. I did print with newspapers. We licensed out. We did very well with that company until the newspaper industry started going down. But we did very well, and that was, we can call that one of my exits. That was fun and successful, and so learned a lot of IP, intellectual property, licensing, etc. So those three brings me into the United States. But then I have to make a living, and just sheer accident in Newport Beach, California again. Company from Australia, I'm sorry, New Zealand needs somebody to source what they call source products from different parts of the world, and that's how my trading hat became part of my life. Trading, sourcing products from around the world for the markets of Australia, New Zealand, and Thailand, and that's how I got going into agriculture from minerals, materials to process to fresh market. So it's been a fun road for the last almost 30 years of my life, and enjoying it, which is more important.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So what does Actools do?
So after many years of running around the world, sourcing for many conglomerates around the world, whether Europeans or Asians or United States companies, every single time that I had to source, I had to look for data. I had to go to the country, literally walk the hallways and look for data. And every single project was a data search process. And I thought, gosh, there must be some reason to different way to do this. At one point, I was brought here by for a project by the largest retailer in the world to do a project in California, and I thought, okay, great, now we will have data faster. And I was shocked to find out that data was not as accessible as I thought either. And I said, okay, that's it. What do we do? And so what we started doing is collecting data, what we call an analog process, collecting data and putting it in email formats. And pretty soon went from one touch point, meaning how much volume, to weather patterns and so on, and became so complex, an email that was too long, that we decided to go into a system, put it in a system. And Actus is born out of a necessity of a project with the largest retailer in the world to actually make it in a dashboard that starts collecting data. So today we collect data in real time, every 15 seconds, literally, at 1 billion transactions from 192 countries of 500 commodities, and put them in front of the dashboard for either the farmers or the buyers, different brains, but different but data points, to see what's going on with their commodities. And I have to clarify that this is not your typical people. When they think agriculture, they think wheat and rice and corn, because that's how this country has started agriculture. This is about specialty crops, the food that we should be eating for good health: fruits, vegetables, nuts, herbs, and plants. So we have every data about mangoes or tomatoes or spinach from all over the world, and where do they move, and so on. Mhm.
What do you mean? What do you mean by specialty crops?
So the United States created a category called specialty crops, which it was not the typical raw crops, the crops that are in lines, long lines, rice, corn, and wheat. And they're more cash oriented, more high yield, in a sense that less space, you harvest more, and you invoice larger, meaning, yes, it's what they call the cash crop. And so specialty crops were created and divided in outside of the other crops, and are the fruits and vegetables, the nuts, the herbs, and the plants, which is literally what human beings should be consuming. So that's a specialty crop. Now, the whole world outside of the United States um, understands just as it's just fruits and vegetables in their minds, or corosos or nuts. But that's how it's categorized when it comes now in the United States and now in Europe.
Okay. And what about other parts of the world, like Asia, Latin America? They call it specialty crops as well?
They don't call it specialty crops; they just call it crops. They call it cash crops. Why is that cash crop? Because it's the famous product that you go to the farm, from the farm goes to like the plaza, to the local market,
Okay.
and so the people pay very much cash. It used to be like that, but as the consumers in the northern hemisphere of the world, meaning the United States and Europe and Japan's of the world, start consuming more of these commodities every day versus not just seasonal, then people start understanding that they're called the special crops, but not specialty crop, but the special crops.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, that's so cool. And you've been at Actools how long? How long? When did you start the company?
So we tested the analog form 2018 and 2019 with retailers, because I was in a project with several of them doing several crops, and everybody kept asking, make sure you send me the data, make sure you send me the data. They wanted to know data fast and simple. And then we decided to create a company, went to Stanford University, and wrote the business plan there. Specifically wrote the business plan there because I thought, well, it's a software play. Let me understand how we write this from that angle. Wrote the business plan there. I was a little bit surprised and a little bit shocked that the projections were a little bit maybe out of range for this industry that is more vertical and industrials. And so then I went to UC Davis and took another 6 months to fine tune. And believe it or not, the gentleman who heads and leads the entrepreneurship agricultural program at UC Davis is also a Stanford professor that migrated to UC Davis. So he understood this migration of $1 billion business versus a, yes, hundreds of millions of dollar business, but not that fast, because it's an industry that takes a little bit longer for adoption. And then finally I went to, so did those two, fine tune the business plan, and finally went to UC Irvine in Southern California. It's the leading university in the world for sociology and anthropologies, and we did a whole research on the thinking process of people that take longer to adopt technology, and make sure that we had a plan of a 17-year plan of understanding how we would do this adoption, knowing that, not knowing at that point that COVID was going to hit us and all those things, but at least we have a full in-depth research of human thinking and patterns to make sure that they adopt.
Oh, wow. So interesting. Um, how, if you were to write a letter to your younger self when you started, what would you say? What is the big lesson that you have learned throughout running the company that you didn't know when you started? So other people can learn.
That's right. I read now more couple of statements from the gentleman who lead NVIDIA and Amazon, building the infrastructure. You build the infrastructure deep, so it's solid. So when it explodes, you have solid grounds. Um,
Mm,
I follow a little bit more the other concept of let's just try to hit fast the market and do the famous hockey stick project process.
mm,
I would have said don't. I would have written to myself and said don't follow that one. Stick to the plan of understanding that this is an industry that is industrialist, is it's a farming, is the last industry to adopt technology in the world, and so therefore it's going to take a little bit longer. So I would have written that to myself, say, hey, just remember, this is not a fast play. This is going to be a longer play. I knew it was going to be longer, but not this long. And it had to do also because we had COVID and we had the war, which that impacted the fertilizer industry around the world. So that's food too. And so I would have written that. Just be patient and make sure that then you don't bring on board salespeople immediately, because you're building something so deep that very
mm.
few people will understand how to sell that. And I mean that respectful of people who have been with us, but really it's a tough sell at the beginning, and once they get it, they're on the run.
Wow. How do you keep this resilience? How do you keep being motivated and inspired when it
Well,
takes,
we,
well, it doesn't
thank you
take
so much.
that long. Yeah, because we're in Silicon Valley. Well, I'm in Silicon Valley. Everything is fast, fail, fast, fail. And I know it doesn't work for a lot of things. I also grow food, and you can't speed up things. Some things just take time. Like I just put a post it, and one of my favorite saying is that you can't take 9 women in a month and make a baby. Some things just take time. So, but the thing is, for so many people, because the majority of people are normal people, and for so many people, it's so hard to keep going and when we compare ourselves to what other people are saying that they're doing, because sometimes it's not true. How do you keep yourself motivated, inspired, energized uh, on a daily basis?
This this was a it was brewing. I used to watch my grandfather complain about markets, world markets, and how when he would have the coffee delivered to the Coffee Federation, he didn't know what was going to happen. He would know later on how the markets have behaved. He had no data, no information. It was we call it the juicy gossip. It was gossip. Who was what where in the local bar or in the local coffee shop or in the local restaurant, and that was always in my mind that wow, okay, that's how business is done. And then I started going through Vietnam's and South Africa's and Chile's and United States, and it was the same thing in the coffee shop. People talking about each other, talking to each other. Somebody told me, somebody told me, somebody told me. But what I learned is that everybody has their own version of the truth, and that was impacting farmers. And I remember specifically, I was one day in Fresno, California, well, down a little bit down Clovis, California, doing a cantaloupe program for from a farmer in the United States to the largest retailer in Mexico, purposely doing this. And the farmer would be telling me that he knew something was this A, and the buyer on the other side was saying no, it's B. And that's the biggest moment. And I'm here in 120-degree melting. I'm like, but I see the data. They were not wanting to, they didn't have access to the data. And so that was my conclusion was, if we ship that, we're going to impact the farmer. The buyer needs to take care of himself because it's a KPI and they have to buy low and sell high. And I said to myself, we're going to start losing farmers. I used to sit on the board of the California Department of Food and Ag. I was seeing the trends that the smaller farmer was starting to disappear because it comes to the point that it's not worth the time and the effort to farm. And passing it on to your children is like, no, you go do something else because this is too hard. And so that was the motivation. The motivation has always been, and we start every Monday with our meeting, this is about the farmer. Every decision that anybody makes in this whole supply chain impacts the most important person in the world, which is that farmer. And if we don't take care of all these supply chain knowledgeable people doing better decisions, we're going to keep losing farmers. We already lost farmers in the United States. That's why we're importing so much food. But we cannot keep losing farmers south of the border or in any other country, because we'll start looking into higher prices and or no product at all.
Wow, that's we forget how important the food industry is. We take that for granted. Yes, thanks for reminding us that. Yeah, you just touch a very important point there. What is the future for Ag Tools? Where do you see it going?
So Actus, so Actus was born for the farmer and still for the farmer and will be for the farmer. The better everybody makes decisions, the better farmers will be taken care. But what it has been broken is not just the specialty crop, the produce industry, or the fruits and vegetables industry. The whole commodity food industry is broken. Give you a very simple example. Um, uh, Africa producing coffee, chocolate. Well, when markets go down, farmers stop producing, and they take out the plants of cocoa, and they plant now something shorter, smaller to do, and that has created a whole wave of pricing instability around the world. Um, Very few people understand that that's what is impacting the whole commodity industry is being impacted. So the future for Actus is make sure that we focus heavily on what we're doing, produce, because it specifically has given us a very elastic software. That is what we have a patent on supply chain intelligence and methods, because that can be used for many other commodities when anybody wants to use it for any commodities. But we keep doing that because the second element we have here is not only collecting data from government entities and institutions, is the fact that we have the largest phenological weather the directory in the world for fruit, vegetables, that and nuts, herbs, and plants. And that's a very unique thing because, like I always tell people, everything in nature has a process, as you were mentioning, and
Yeah,
knowing those patterns makes us better and able to predict future
yeah.
attached to geopolitical issues, monetary changes. So those 76 variables that we have in this box that moves depending on the user and these phenological weather patterns will give the elements for commodity industry to readjust and realign to make sure that we keep farmers, even for a cocoa bean or for a wheat, anywhere in the world.
Wow, that is definitely a better future because there's so much waste. And what most people don't know, well, I know because I'm a farmer too, or I was a farmer, but what most people don't know is that the farmers don't get paid until the very, very end. So they can do everything right. And there is a flooding, they can't get the produce out, they're done. Or there was a bacteria, or there's a conflict, or if there's a strike, and they don't get paid for for
Strike at
months.
the port. A strike at a port, that means that you did everything, you put it on the container, it doesn't get shipped, and everybody gets paid except the farmer. Especially
Exactly.
our industry, a little bit less than the other commodities in our industry, so consignment. That means until it gets delivered, farmers get paid. And that's even more dangerous. I think about it, that you're doing a business where you wait until they get it and then you get paid and then pay everybody in between. So yes, the risks are higher, and very few people understand that when they're having that lettuce, somebody sacrificed so much and didn't know whether they were going to get paid or not at the end, until shipped. Received is the name.
Wow, that is that. Yes, you're right. I didn't think about it because the container company gets paid, the shipping company gets paid, the port gets paid.
The boxes.
Yeah, I didn't think about it. Yeah, everybody gets paid except. Wow, so so interesting. Yeah. Let's move into something that I always ask people. Um, and it is about a sense of legacy, and it's kind of more personal than business. I don't know if you know that when I was 13, I fell off a horse and I was in coma. So when
Mhm.
I died, but I didn't die completely. So when I got back conscious to my conscious, when I regained consciousness, I I realized that we have a gift that is life, and it's going to end. So have you thought about who are you when you're no longer here? Who is Martha when Martha is not here? What is your legacy?
My legacy is that people will smile because we have given a solution of some kind to make their lives better, and they will smile. And I've done that with products that you use or items that you use, that, oh, thank God this exists. I mean, literally a phone, iPhone, I smile because I have now access to
Yeah, yeah.
anything. So I want the farmers to know, and the buyers, the two extremes of the supply chain. Oh, I can go to my family, I can relax more, I can do better decisions and smile. And if even if they never know me, because they might never know me, they're like, thank goodness there's such solution to make my life easier, and make sure that I take care of everybody, specifically the farmer, because I know now that, and I have always known, but now the new buyers and the new decision makers are younger people who really care about human beings and earth. But they need the tools to take care of the human being, the farmer, and the earth, to make sure we don't throw away. So if there's a strike happening, with this couple weeks ago happened, there was something going on in Mexico, and we sent the alert to the buyers. Immediately they started packing and shipping faster the following day, and sure enough, they shut down that city. It was a Tuesday alarm. Wednesday, everybody shipped and left, and Thursday they shut down the city, and they were able to take out the product, so the farmer didn't lose the money, and the buyers had the product. That type of systems are what we are talking about, to make sure that we keep our farmers in healthy positions.
In business, yeah. How is your, let's move, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the buyer of actuals, not just the farmers. I forgot to include that. So who are the buyers and what is the benefit for them?
So the buyers, in the past, buyers, I would say 20 years ago, United States was the commanding buyer of the world. Everybody wanted to come to United States. Good, the dollar is good. There's a judicial system that will protect if there's a discrepancy, so on and so forth. But as things have changed, and landscapes have changed, the United States buyers are no longer fighting among themselves. They're fighting against other countries for supply of products. So when you come in with a China, when you come in with the Middle East or Japan, they are getting the product, because our natural resources are even less every year. So now the sourcing is much harder, because now you have more competition worldwide for this, for the commodity industry and the food industry. So the buyers here are now can see landscapes of what's going on. Oh, this type of commodity is going more towards Middle East, or towards Japan, or towards China, or whatever that is. So they're starting to understand how to negotiate better in order to keep their supply to themselves or to our country. And also because the reality is that we are starting to finally realize that we need to consume better and healthier. And for that reason, we need to make sure we source better, and healthier, for many reasons. But they themselves need to. I grew up in an industry where I had 5 to 10 years of somebody training me. young people don't have. They come out of university straight into a desk. They never saw a farm in their lives, or even if they saw a farm, it was a couple times in their lives, but they never loaded a container. They never farm. So now they need to get the industry knowledge faster through data systems, and be able to manage better their contracts.
Wow. How do people find you? Where can they reach out to you?
Sure, they can reach me at Martha, Martha, at ag.tools, not .com, but .tools, TOOLS.
Yeah, well, you have it there. Thank you so much. We'll put it in the credits too. Martha, thank you so much for your time. To the listeners, thank you so much for listening. And I hope I can see you at our next Wealthing podcast.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here. Martha is a quintessential entrepreneur. She has found different ways to build companies and exit companies or adapt to the ecosystem. One thing that really struck me was her resilience, her capacity to keep growing. And as you can see, she's not the typical entrepreneur that we see in magazines that is aggressive and extroverted. She's just a very, very resilient person. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I hope to see you in our next podcast. This is Alicia Castillo Holley at the Wealthing Podcast. Let's create wealth. Thanks for tuning in to our Wealthing Talks. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. To stay connected, visit us at wealthing.com. This is Alicia Castillo Holley, your host, and until next time, yours in Wealthing.